All right. Okay, moving along. Chapter 15, we're looking at social media. Last week we talked about digital interactive media. What are the concepts behind that, the different modes we can use. But this week we'll focus primarily on social media, right? How to advertise in an effective way, how to gain views, figure out your target markets, the different platforms available, sort of concepts behind social media, the differences between that and traditional media that we talked about previously. So let's get into it. All right, so how many social media platforms are you on that you just think off the top of your head?
How many there are, I'm not sure. I think I actively count on paper, I should probably like three.
How many are you active on? Like you really yourself?
I don't like actually post anything, I just kind of look at stuff.
You're not separate, right? All right, so we say, hey, different behaviors for different people who's on the platforms, but different types of people. How about you? How many are you think you're on? Right, cool. Like, well, how many are you active? Just one? All right, so the rest, you're just an observer. You're like, oh, I'm just scrolling through, looking at everybody else's stuff. Not really posting anything. But then one of the platforms, you engage. How about you?
One,
What about active?
two,
Two. Right? So we say, hey, different types of people on there. Social media has revolutionized how we communicate, right? And we say, well, we started off, what revolutionized traditional and traditional media? We say, hey, man, technology did. TV, radio, right? We say, hey, when radio first came out, not only could you listen to, say, news, we're talking over 100 years ago, right? You say news, stories, right? And say from that, companies got involved and started talking about brands. So it's almost, if we look at it, it's very relevant. You're like, hey, radio's invented over 100 years ago. What happens on radio is, first of all, maybe people are just talking about information around the world, because we didn't have TV, no internet, et cetera, et cetera. And then companies like, hey, this is a great medium maybe for us to start advertising our brands, our products. Maybe individuals that come on there and have stories. So we say social media now, we have stories, just like we did radio 100 years ago. TV gave us something different. It's like, well, TV gave us the visuals, right? You say in traditional advertising, TV opened up the gateway because, guess what? Human beings are primarily visual. We usually get most information from vision. If we see someone walking down the street, we're gonna acknowledge if they're a threat or not for us to know what to do. Let's say it's midnight, see someone, we view them. We don't need to hear anything they're doing. We don't sense anything else. We visually scan our brain. It's like, oh, something is off about this person when we cross the street, right? So human beings are primarily visual. Aesthetics are what we're primarily engaged with, right? Beauty, the things that we find to be beautiful, the things we find to be disgusting. So visuals are a huge component to how advertising revolutionized through traditional media. Let's say here along comes, last week we talked about the advent of the internet, right? U.S. military sort of had the biggest hand in creating that network, right? So how do you think social media has transformed how we communicate, how we advertise, our interests, et cetera, et cetera? How do you think it's changed as opposed to this stuff, the old ways?
All the different ability to track users. You could buy ads that target your actual target audience.
Yeah, and you say, hey man, we have big data. say, hey, the internet has allowed us to, it's permanent. In essence, once it's on the internet, whatever it is on there is usually permanent in some space, right? Someone may have downloaded, shared, so even if the original source eliminated the information, somebody else still got the information hidden somewhere. But this collection of information creates big data. You can say with the big data, we have the analytics. We can track, as Greg said, track people. Who comes to the platform? How many views we have? How many likes? How many shares? How many subscribers? What else? What other ways you think has changed?
To connect in a second, connect with like your audience in like a second, basically.
Yeah, think about it. Right? Instantaneous. Think of this concept. In traditional media, like, all right, cool. We have TV. You're like, okay, well, who's on TV? Just a select few of people. How'd they get on TV? Big companies hire actors, producers, directors, gaffers, lighting people, creative animators. You're like, well, how long does that take? Like, that takes a long time. And then you have to get it to the actual source, right? They say the biggest thing is instantaneous. Let's say creation, creating content. So you say, at first it was a select few who could get this information out to the wide audience. Now you say, everybody can, at any point in time. What do you need now, for the most part, to get the content out? What revolutionized? We said TV and radio revolutionized traditional. Smartphone, right? You say, hey, with the advent of the smartphone, now we had cell phones before, they were big and blocky. They had limited capabilities. Right, limited capabilities, usually just using them to call people, right? And maybe text messaging me like there's nothing else, right? Apple comes along and revolutionizes this entire sort of industry with a smartphone. A screen that can be touched, but also for the most part has applications for different uses to integrate to the operating system that was available. Revolution changed everything. Changed the way that we were going to communicate with one another, how quickly we could communicate, and they had a camera as well too, right? So you say now we are the producers, we are the directors, we are the lighting people, we are the script writers. So every time you post, you're like, oh, I'm gonna take a quick little selfie video, write the content to it, upload it. You're like, wow, imagine what that would have cost back in the day to do. Now it's, virtually free. But you say, hey, the smartphone completely revolutionized how we engage and communicate with one another. Got different type of networks. Let's say we have things like reviews, right? Let's say Yelp as an example. We have content sharing networks. Let's say that's YouTube, right? And then maybe we just have social networks, right? I mean, the whole thing really is social network, but we could just describe it as more of a social network. We're communicating with one another in different aspects for different reasons, right? Getting the messaging out for some reason. So let's try to see how this all involves sort of media, right? So we're meeting people virtually, right? Over the internet. Hey, yeah. Right, so now we say harnessing content to become big business. In essence, we've made every single person who has a smartphone the ability to start a business. Very simple. Doesn't take much at all to start branding, creating commercials. All you need is really the time, a phone, the platform, right? something creative to offer. You can go on Temu, Shein, buy unbranded items, slap a brand on them, because it's not branded, it's not owned by any corporation, right? And start selling it. It could be makeup, you know, it could be all sorts of cosmetics, it could be clothing, Ham open up a clothing store. It could be anything, right? Anything that's sold from, you know, usually different foreign countries, right? Because here, unfortunately, we got very strict intellectual property laws and things like that. So it's hard to find unbranded things in the US, but usually if you look around the world, you can find unbranded items, sell them quickly, and become a whole company yourself. Just matters the ingenuity that you have. And so what else do we need? We need to help aggregate information. Like, great, now we have the platform, the space to get on and communicate with everyone. This is wonderful. Unfortunately, we all know it's difficult to go viral. It's difficult to even get likes on your own posts. You're like, what's happening? What's wrong, right? Why am I not getting as big as everyone else on TikTok and Instagram? How come I'm not becoming the best YouTuber? What is it that they're doing that makes them have millions of followers? Tell me some of your favorite content creators. What are they doing to get them millions of followers? What is the special sauce, the special recipe?
Outdoor Boys,
Outdoor Boys. Is that how they spell it?
yeah.
Okay. What's the sauce? What's the secret ingredient?
It's a dad that used to be a lawyer, he's like really family oriented person. And he, just does like wild, like camping adventures and hunting and anything outdoorsy really.
What does he do though on it, you think that captures a big audience? Because maybe there's a bunch of other people doing the same thing, a dad, right, going out into nature. What do you see?
Just very minimalist, like he doesn't have any same like technology or anything like that, just like real basic type stuff.
Yes, all right, so the secret sauce. Keep it simple, right? Keep it simple. The other part, keep it consistent. If Outdoor Boys start talking about some random stuff on their feed, pushing out content, dad's pushing out heavy politics, right leaning, heavy politics, left leaning. He starts to talk about like flashy cars, right, supercars. You're like, I'm confused. I thought you were this. I came here for this, right? People come, we go to the store for a certain thing. When it's not there, we're pissed off, right? We're like, yo, I'm not coming back here. Because the last thing in my memory, you start talking about supercars, Dad. And I didn't come here for supercars. I'm an outdoorsy person. Give me some more of that. That's what makes me happy. That's what satisfies me. So we say, hey, you know, Outdoor Boys, Dad keeps it simple and keeps the message consistent. It's about outdoor stuff, getting out with your family, right? Your sons, your daughter, wife, whatever, and getting out. So he said that's the secret ingredient. Keep it consistent, keep it simple. Once you start to deviate from the message, then you're gonna lose some customers. Anyone else? Think your favorite content creators, what do you think makes them big? Makes them successful? I'll tell you one of mine, right? I have two small children. One of the biggest YouTubers out there. Like you can look up the most subscribers, most viewed, Ryan's World. Anyone familiar? Are you familiar too?
I think I am, yeah.
Who can tell me about Ryan's World? What is it about?
It's this little kid. He's doing like what I think like toy reviews or something like that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm sort of familiar with.
Well, it's a little kid, you know, he's older now, so it's starting to change, kind of like, I don't think he can keep this up for much longer, right? It's getting older, he's like 13 or 12 now. But he's been on there for a long time, and basically just following his life, doing things as a kid. Mostly in his house, right? And he's going to randomly play with toys in his house, and he's doing a little review for toys, showing you about it. He goes to the kitchen and looks for food, right? He's just basically following a kid on his journey as a kid, right? Nothing special at all. And what does that do for the children? Well, the children want to follow their kids, but maybe they're just at home, they're not outside. It gives them an opportunity to have a friend that's their age, to follow them and track them, doing things that they're interested in, right? And the kids are gonna mimic him. How does that boom Ryan? Well, guess what? If Ryan is reviewing a toy, mom, dad, Ryan has it, can I have it, right? A lot of money, a lot of sponsors are like, yo, whatever Ryan does, sales go up for X amount of toys or whatever, right? So Ryan found the key ingredient. And here's the key ingredients. It's not that complicated. Here's usually what most people want to search for, right? We think that society is fancy and sophisticated and complex, but it's not. People usually search for pets, cars, travel, I say salacious material, right? Things that are kind of borderline, I don't know if this should be on this platform, right? Something salacious. News, politics, actually, I put politics in with business too, almost as a hybrid. News, politics, and business, I would say highly correlated, kind of integrated together. Self-improvement. You're going on YouTube to look at some influencer to tell you how to improve your mind. Hey, how to be more efficient with your thinking, right? New diets so that you be more cut, right? Get yourself in shape, right? New ways to work out. Some self-improvement. And I'm gonna teach you how to be a guru in finance and learn how to day trade, right? The day trader now. Because of that. Some sort of self-improvement stuff. And I would say maybe family too, right? We'll put that up there, family. Travel, we could put up there with, outdoors and stuff too. I used to be fascinated by Camping with Steve. You ever watch him? Yeah, you gotta watch him, right? And he's one of the originators. So this guy would go out. So I used to have a travel van, and I just travel all across the country in my travel van. It's a really nice van. And I would camp, I would hike, Montana, Idaho, mountains, Colorado, disappear, remote places. So I was really interested in that kind of life, van life, as they call it, right? People who just travel around with vans and stuff. But the guy Camping with Steve, he didn't really have a van, right? He didn't have a van, but what he would do, he was kind of obsessed with finding random places to camp, right? Always have a tent. Sometimes he have a makeshift tent. He's always reviewing new things out there available, and he would just camp random. Like he would camp in the medians of highways. So he was always finding, and you're like, that's interesting, because you want to see what else he comes up with and not getting caught, right? So you're like, hey, that type of material is a niche. You're like, people who are outdoors, part of the outdoors, but doing it a little bit more different than your traditional, trying to camp out in some little grassy area by Walmart or something without being caught, right? You would build in culverts, sometimes the little ditches underneath the highways and things like that. Really interesting. Give them a chance, check them out, get millions of followers, subscribers. So we'd say even niche stuff. But for the most part, this is what people look up. This is not complex. You go on a business page, you're gonna talk politics, right? You're gonna talk news, random news. People are looking for places to travel. People love cat videos are one of the most highly searched things you can find out there. So if you want to break into the game, you can kind of just use these basic sort of interests to get in. But it's still challenging. Remember we say finding followers, right? Consistent messaging, pushing out content constantly. It can be challenging because you also could say like, hey, if last time I didn't get any good views, how can next time I go about changing things? Do I experiment? And if I experiment, do I cross the threshold where the messaging is completely different from what I wanted it to be previously? All right, so we say there are different types of personalities and people on their personas, right? Forrester Research, a large marketing research firm, one of the largest in the U.S., found that there are different type of user types. So we got creators, people who are on there just creating content, conversationalists, people who are on there just to comment, right? So we may say, we go on YouTube and we can see a short, like a YouTube short, and there's some people like, I'm always commenting, right? Either as a troll, right? Either as they say like rage bait, like they comment just to kind of hook you in to get into an argument, right? Or to just, really be honest and authentic, right? Hey man, this is a really great video, keep it up. I really like what you said about this. Critic. Let's say you go on Expedia.com, right? And you're talking about your horrible experience. Let's say you had a horrible experience traveling so bad, you're like, nah, I'm not letting them get away with this. I'm gonna go on whatever travel site and tell me how bad the experience was with the hotel, with renting the car, with blah, 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 right? So you get people who are critics. Or you go to a restaurant and you're like, no, man, no. The service here was so bad, no, I'm gonna go on Yelp. I'm gonna tell other people about it, I'm gonna post how ugly the food looked, how disgusting it looked. Because I wanna stop people, I want them to improve here, right? Or prevent people from wasting their money and their time. Collector, right? People who kind of, I would say kind of either collect things, right? And they have that sort of thing, or they just kind of collect more of content for the most part, right? Kind of group all their content together and harness it in some way to collect. And then we have joiner, spectator, and people who are inactive, right? So we say some people are just spectators, they're not active at all, right? They're just there just to observe, and some people just, look around. Okay, so here we go. Publish blogs or web pages, right? So we say people who are writers, publish blogs, they're creators, post videos, music, or writings that create. Some people are conversationalists. You think different platforms for different uses, right? Who do you say has the most creators on the platform? What platform?
YouTube.
Yeah. So YouTube, literally, you can't really write stuff in there. You put a description, right? Very small description. You have a title, but it's a visual platform, right? It's not meant for people to be writing, 4-page sort of things on there, right? So it's primarily, and TikTok. So I would say maybe TikTok and YouTube. What else? Is there another platform? Do you think it's mostly about content creation? Twitch, right? You gotta be doing something on Twitch, right? You have to be doing something out there. People on those platforms are visual. I'm not there to read a bunch of stuff. Show me in the video, please, right? Or in the gaming, or whatever. And Instagram, too, right? So you go on Instagram, you're not there for writing. Maybe there's quotes, right? Somebody posted a picture with quotes, or a video with quotes. But for the most part, it's for publishing, right? Something. But you could go, for writings, you could say things like LinkedIn. You say, well, LinkedIn is supposed to be professional. I heard, but no LinkedIn's in this class, right? No LinkedIn pages?
Oh, I don't.
Okay, everybody. I think it's my other class. And they're like, no. My other marketing class, which has like 20 and maybe like only 2 people that hit LinkedIn. Like, LinkedIn is essential if you're trying to get a job, or be on, you know, the internet, the web sphere, and have a professional appearance, right, a professional profile, right? Because now then we'll see all your horrible social media stuff, right? We wanna kind of still see you on a professional side. Because, you know, for LinkedIn, it's about writings and sharing content, right? Writing and sharing content, right? For professionals like to write. If we wanted something visual, we go to TikTok. That's what we got TikTok for, we go to YouTube. We say there we wanna read stuff as professionals. Conversationalists, often update my status on social network, right? People who are trying to engage in conversations, get the conversation started, right? So update, say something so people can comment. Critics, post reviews that contribute to online forums, collector RSVs and add tags to photos. Joiner, visit social network sites or maintain my profile on at least one site. Spectator, read or listen to content others have posted. And inactive, I do none of the above. I didn't get to ask you, Diego, how many platforms you think you are on, that you use?
Maybe like 5 or 6, I would say.
How many are you active? Do you find yourself like very active?
Maybe like 2 or 3 of them.
2 or 3?
Yeah.
I like YouTube a lot. I think most of them on YouTube, right? Because to me, it's, I can really specify. YouTube's a very strong algorithm. Whatever you searched last time, instantaneously you'll start getting. You know, they really, Google has really sort of strengthened that algorithm, which I don't know if I like that. Like, 'cause I may have searched for something randomly, but now I don't want it always showing up in my feed now, right? Now I gotta search for something different, you know? Kinda like, you should have known what I really like, that I've always searched for, and not just cater to my immediate searches. I don't think, I like that outright on that. All right, influencers, share their brand experiences with friends and family, right? Try to influence, change the behavior of others, get someone to buy something, get someone to share something, to do something, right? We have things like influencer marketing. Facebook versus print as a percentage of total media ad spending, right? So we're looking at here, a percentage of total media ad spending. This is 26 to 2019 data, right? So we're looking at net ad revenues and sort of reddish blue print ad spending. So we see how things have changed. 2016, print ads were exceeding Facebook. I would say 2019, data's a little bit old, but even still, it's even far more. It's probably up here now in 2024 going to 2025. Right? So you say, hey, using social media is the way to go now. Right? This is the platform that people are, the community that people are in. Right? So remember to say, hey, it's changed because of the smartphone. So now we don't have to worry about time to delivery. We say before, we had things like movies that would take like 3 years to come out. Let's say, hey, movie production, right? You're like, oh, okay. Yeah, I heard they start filming a movie for such and such, Top Gun Part 2 or something like that. When does it come out? 3 years from now. Right? You're like, man, that's a lot of money to wait for 3 years for a completed product, right? You're like, well, that's good. Maybe it allows for time for sponsors to get in, you know, in on it. Like maybe if it's a sort of a superhero movie, thinking about like Avengers or something, you're like, well, we need that time. Why? We need the people to start producing the toys, right? Have the toy makers get in on it. We need all this extravagant marketing. We need costumes for kids. Like, well, this is multi-billion-dollar sort of production, right? So it's kind of, but it's changed, right? Because we say now with the social media, right, you could put bits of information, quickly, right? You can kind of quickly build with least expense, which means we all are building up some sort of production ourselves quickly with very little cost. And so the time to delivery has changed, right? And also the type of content. You're like, well, why has that changed? Well, you would think that the smartphone has altered our behavior on our attention, right? We no longer have the attention span. In some way, we're all kind of ADD in some way, in some little facet, right? But we can't pay attention that much no more. None of us, to a degree, doesn't matter how old you are, right? You say, yeah, the younger people, maybe more to a degree, right? You're like, well, is that a good thing or a bad thing? What do you think? Our inability to pay attention long term.
Even in one of my other classes, we talk about this, and like, I'm a little bit older than most, and we didn't have like these growing up, and I could tell my attention span and stuff is worse over the years because of social media and smartphones.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. If you didn't have the stimulation from, let's say, I grew up when I was in high school, there were no smartphones, right? Smartphones had just started to come around, right? Smartphones kind of created, well, the first iPhone, I would say, was kind of around when I was early days in college. But before you say, hey, I wasn't stimulated that much, right? And I didn't allow for so much information to get in my mind. You think, well, more information should make you more intelligent, you would think, right? You're like, man, it's a lot of information. All the information in the world in your pocket. You're like, what's really changed? Not that much. If we have all the information, how come we don't start hedge funds? We have the information, right? How come we're all not billionaires? We got all the tools. Go on YouTube, figure it out, like how to be a billionaire, right? How to do this, and like that's not the case, right? So too much. How we know is that short-term working memory does not stay there long. Usually, you need about more than 20 times or more, maybe even 30 times of repetition on something. It could be a subject. It has to be repeated 30 times before it actually even goes into long-term memory. Long-term memory is permanent. It never goes away. It never fades. It could fade slightly, but it never really eliminates itself, right? If you knew how to ride a bike when you were 5, even if you haven't rode in 30 years, give you another 20 minutes, you'll be right back on it. You remember, muscle memory, everything else. But it's like now with so much information, I think that we're just kind of confused, right? And we say confusion in the brain is really anxiety, it's giving people stress. And depending on the content, so here's the real thing. It really depends on what you're looking at, right? So if you're looking at garbage, usually you're gonna have garbage behavior, right? You're gonna be kind of lazy, lethargic, and most of it is garbage. They say, hey, the issue here is how to filter relevant information, right? Find things that are relevant, substantial. A lot of things just are not relevant, which means that we are going through a lot of information before we can actually find things that we're interested in, things that we want. It's not that easy, even though it's so much saturated information out there. All right, so we say, hey, major reason for ad revenue growth was the smartphone, right? Smartphone had applications. Applications were specific. It could be the company has its own app. It could be a service that we could use, a trading platform to trade all of our stocks, right? Something to be used in some capacity. and it allow for different environments to be ads to be placed on, with a banner ads, right, things of that nature. Social media gives advertisers the ability to target, right? So if you go on Facebook ads, you can really specify. You're like, hey, I want to share this content with people 18 to 35 in this zip code, and I want to share it for the next 3 weeks. Facebook will give you the cost of that, and you can see what happens, right? You can track the information. You're like, okay, that only got 1,000 views. The one we previously posted had 5,000 views. Why did this one get so least amount of views? You're like, hey, we deviated from the message, right? Our real message as a brand, as a company, as a content creator. Facebook owns, this is even more now, 40% of market share. Twitter is, or X, is pretty significant now. Elon's done a pretty decent job, let's say, with Twitter. So he's catching up on market share with that as well too. Market share visits, this is 2018, right? Facebook #1, YouTube, Google. Twitter was #3, Reddit, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Quora, Tumblr, Yelp. Anyone who uses Reddit? Yeah. Reddit's good. I think Reddit's really good if you want to get kind of real authentic information about something. And you can find places, you can find conversations on Reddit to show you how to get the textbook for free. Right? Those like specific things, go questions you got, and things with people advice, really good things. It'd be like relationships, you could, the questions are always there on Reddit with good examples of real people, right? Pinterest, right? Primarily just photos or videos. Who's on Pinterest? Right? Right, and so you save your pins, your categories, hey, my fantasy wedding, in Paris or something. Hypercars, I'm gonna save all my cars in this space, cool stuff. I have a Pinterest, I love it. LinkedIn, Quora is the same kind as Reddit, right? We go and we ask questions, they provide answers. Tumblr, I never really experienced Tumblr, and then Yelp. Who uses Yelp before they go out to eat?
I have.
Right? You say, hey, reviews are effective. They are effective, but they can be kind of sketchy. So as a company, as a brand, do you think or let's just say for Sergio's and Johnny's, we use those examples. Should Sergio's and Johnny's use a Yelp where anybody can create a review, negative or positive? Is it beneficial to Sergio's and Johnny's?
I think so, yeah.
In what way?
I feel just because like a lot of the demographic for Johnny's is still that kind of like older range, and I feel like they like Yelp or whatever, either to put their own opinion out or just to like quickly look like, oh, hey, it's got like 4.5 stars,
Yeah.
So just let people go check out.
All right, so say, hey, positive because there's a lot of happy customers and they want to share their experience. Free advertising, right? It's like free advertisement with a free review. What do you think over here?
The same thing, because there's other restaurants around the area, so if you see they have good reviews, they haven't tried it out.
Yeah, think about it. If you say, hey, here's a platform, if I don't use it, right, they may still source my information in some way, and it shows up I have no reviews. Someone's gonna think that's sketchy, right? They're like, wait, you don't have a review at all, right? You like, no. Like, you have to use the space. If you're a laggard, as we call it, and you're not using the platforms, everybody else is using it, you eventually are gonna be obsolete and suffer for it, right? So it is probably in your best interest to keep up with the modern sort of platforms, to engage with them. The negatives, what's the negatives, you think?
If your business isn't doing that well, your bad reviews, it could, potentially turn away customers.
Yeah, you could be, hey, well, now you may have to respond. You may have to get feedback, right? like, that's a whole nother thing you have to keep up. Oh, thank you so much for the review, I'm glad you enjoyed Johnny's, right? Come back, see you next time. Someone would be like, hey, 1 star. This is the worst place of all time. Don't go here during lunch. It's impossible. The line was 15 minutes long out the door. This place looks old. Blah, blah, blah. Right? I'm like, dude, you didn't even get any food. You didn't even try the food. Right? Now you got to go back and respond because everybody else sees this. Right? It's out there in the review sphere. Right? And you're like, hey, sorry for your experience. You know, usually save some extra time to get here during lunchtime, yada, yada, yada. So the comment could be like, hey, if that review shouldn't be, it's not really a relevant review, because you didn't even try the food. The place is a food spot, you didn't even try it, but you're giving us a poor review, and now we gotta try to clean it up to some degree. Trending, right? So we say, hey, a good way to trend. I'll just use an example of Yahoo, because Yahoo has a trending area. You know? I haven't used Yahoo in like 20 years. I don't even know people who use it. I do see sometimes people still with their Yahoo emails, and you kind of think like, oh man, it's probably a virus on that email or something. Yahoo feels old, right? But it still exists. What were you saying?
I have a Yahoo email.
I know some people that still has like Hotmail. You're like, come on. Yeah, they're legit email addresses, right? But just in the mind, you just find it to be something way old. All right, you say, hey, you know what? I'm an advertiser. I'm just using this. This is really search engine marketing, but I don't feel like putting up Facebook and all that, because now I have to log in. But we can say, hey, you know what? I'm a content creator of some kind. I'm a blogger, right? I write news, I write little snippets. How can I get more people to come to my channel? How can I get more people to come to my social media page? Well, you say, find out what's trending. The search engine here shows you. Dallas Cowboy, Trump dance, Russia-Ukraine war, SpaceX launch. I don't know who that is, right? I don't know who that is, these people, right? But you can say, hey, optimize. You can optimize what's trending. It will be different on Instagram, on TikTok, and you say, you know what? If that's trending, if that's what's hot now, that's what people are searching for. Now, I can go ahead and create my own content, which I think is cool, and people be interested in. But like, that's usually not the case. That's not how it works. You have to follow the trends. So if it was Kamala Harris and Trump before, the actual election results, guess what? Everybody's talking about it. And you get a lot of views. And if you got a lot of views, it's a good chance you might have got a lot of people like, oh, I like what you said about that. Subscribe. Now you got a lot of followers. And if you got a lot of followers, you probably got a lot of people who shared it in a text message. Dude, check out this article on Harris, Trump, blah, blah, blah. Right? So if you follow trends, you build your platform, right? The trending is very important. So sometimes that's a strategy. The strategy is to just follow the trends. You could just create a tagline. It could be something completely unrelated. Let's say it is Johnny's and Sergio's, right? You could get creative with an ad or a post or a video and tie it into something random, just with a big tagline, a big head, right? Some people may, hey man, it's kind of clickbait, right? You're like, okay, I checked out what you saw, it's not really relevant to the title, but you're like, hey, it may have worked, right? It was creative and maybe even funny to some degree. What have you seen in terms of trends? How different social media, say influencers or brands, have been sort of advertising on the platforms? Have you seen anything change? Like, just, have you noticed some ways to go about it? Right, and one thing I've noticed is the use of, humor at the beginning to get the attention, right? Because we know, hey, what are people usually searching on certain platforms? Humor's a big one, right? People probably looking up wild videos, fights, accidents, injuries, all sorts of things that human beings are interested in, negative or not. But we say, hey, humor's a big one. We wanna go on there to see something funny. We want somebody to share something with us funny. We're gonna click on something that we think is funny. So what I've been seeing is even smaller brands or influencers they're taking like these little snippets of crazy videos, say of like someone about to get like ran over with a car, and then they'll quickly go into them talking about their brand, right? Have you seen that? Right, so it's kind of the use of humor at the beginning. Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. He catched the wave of that, and Mike Tyson walking with his butt out at the end of the interview. And people are using that at the beginning. They're just putting a different spin on it. Why? Because it's trending. It's trending until it goes outside of the memory of people and it becomes a thing of the past. Right, so you have to catch the wave and get kind of creative and innovative on what's trending. All right, before I continue, let me just see real quick if I can find a logo to reference for Sergio's. Let's see. That's what I did from Yahoo. That's what I did, yeah. Alright, apparently that's not gonna work, Yahoo messed everything up. There's a couple more slides. Alright, so we're saying, hey, things that are trending, very important, right? To keep up with. Application protocol interface, APIs. APIs are basically ways that the platforms use to exchange information, right? So it used to be very difficult because at first you needed, when one platform or one program communicated with another, it needed to be encoded in a different way. APIs kind of created this interface to where Facebook could share your information with any app out there, right? So if you go on any app and you're like, I'm gonna sign up for it, and now they're tracking my behavior, Facebook would have also shared the information back. Hey, you know what, this is what Diego searches for on Facebook. This is what he usually clicks on, right? This is what he usually views, and for how long. YouTube will share that information, right? Hey, this is what Greg searches for on such and such platform, right? And what he subscribes to, the channels he subscribes to, how long he watched it. So we know how long he watched it, but he only watched that for a few seconds, not as relevant as this one. He watches that for about 4 minutes on average, right? So we say they're all transferring using API to communicate in order to be like, well, that's good. That's good for us as advertisers. Because now it makes it very simple for us to cross-platform advertise, right? So we have the information, the analytics to know, hey, different platforms, this is what different people look for. Thus, we should kind of place ads, or maybe slightly different, but with the same messaging, consistent messaging for different platforms. And then lastly, Twitter offers advertisers several programs to engage users, from modest efforts like promoted posts to expensive cross-platform campaigns such as promoted trends. In the middle and useful for gaining followers is the promoted account campaign, illustrated here. So we got a promoted account campaign on Twitter. This is from McDonald's, right? You say, hey, you know what? Twitter is about visuals, but Twitter is really very similar to LinkedIn. You get some visuals, but you get a lot of things you want to read. So for McDonald's posting on Twitter, Maybe just not like a video is the best way to go. You like, McDonald's should do that maybe on Instagram or YouTube, but for here, say McDonald's wanna put really good content, right? We wanna show how many tweets, how many people are following. If we know how many people are following, like, oh, okay, this must be relevant, right? And then how many followers? Wow, McDonald's, you have a lot of that many followers. We're social beings, we wanna be in the loop with other people. So depending on the followers and the tweets, we know how relevant it is. If it's very low sort of engagement, we might skip that. We're like, all right, that's some BS, right? Okay, that will be it for today. Thursday, hey, try to have, show me some of the revamps on the social media sort of ads you came up with, if you communicate with the rest of your group. Yeah, we'll pick this up on Thursday. Sounds good? All right.